Hello everyone. Today we will start and run through the course on building your personal AI assistant, your AI agents made by you with the use of a tool called N8N. And this is not going to be a super long course, maybe a few hours long, but it will give you a clear picture where to start and how agents work in general, as well as how agents work specifically in N8N. And with the help of the resources that we will provide during the course and references to various libraries, you will also be able to kickstart your journey with already created open sourced versions of various agentic systems and automate your personal life as well as your business life quite easily. So my objective in this course is to give you a very, very clear understanding of how agents are structured and give you this base on which you can build up and continue creating your own amazing agents. Welcoming, which we kind of already did, and explaining exactly what we're going to build. So we're going to build a personal assistant, a personal agent that will live in Telegram, within the Telegram messenger. But reality is that it doesn't have to be Telegram. It can be WhatsApp, it can be Slack, it can be any other messenger. For example, when we're building agents, we're embedding them in the Slack of our clients, which makes it easier for them to access. So we will start with creating a super basic agent, and just to make sure that it works at least somehow, we'll connect it to Telegram, and then we go to the advanced topics like the usage of the tools, setting up memory, and making this thing work in a more resilient kind of manner. And of course, at the end of the course, I will share various resources and the agent itself that you will be able to download and just use from within your own N8N. So with that, let's get started. And I would like to, first of all, show you what N8N is, because for some people it might be a little bit new. And basically N8N is an orchestration engine that has been created some time ago for mostly for IT and DevOps purposes to automate certain data flows within the corporate systems. And it has shown itself as a very reliable and flexible tool. And recently they introduced an ability to create AI agents. And actually you can see the AI agent example right on their main page, showing them how AI can process some, user forms or something like that. But we will dive into more details of how that works. I want you to remember one important thing. Whenever you start to develop an agent going forward, it's much better to start with something that is already working. And there are plenty of resources online where you can find templates of the AI agents, in particular on the N8N site themselves. So you can go to product templates, and they have 2,500 various workflows. Good portion of them are templates. Another place where you can find them is on Ability AI Hub, where we have hand-selected over 100, several hundred actually AI agents that are created for different business purposes, business automation purposes, and you can also download them and start from that point really. But again, we can go ahead and download any number of those agents that are already completed. But what I want to do instead in this session is to actually build the agent from the ground up, from scratch, and explain the main concepts while I am doing that. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let me check the presentation here. So yes, N8N is a visual automation platform. Once you create an account over here through the main website, you can create a cloud account right on N8N, and you can also create your own instance of N8N and create your agents over there. You will need to know a little bit more technical details of how to do that, because it's basically a Docker image that you can pull and install on any of your locations. And N8N itself is an open source product, so you can go ahead to GitHub and find its sources. But it has a particular licensing structure that is quite complicated. And the fact that it's open source doesn't mean that it is free to use. You need to go through N8N for licensing. Now, going back here, once you register, you will get access to this visual design tool. And I am using an instance that we installed internally at Ability AI. But when you register, you would get exactly the same view, exactly the same instance. And this is where we're going to be creating our AI agents. Yes, I explained the self-hosted versus cloud, so it can be both ways. It has node-based architecture, so basically the idea is that you can add any number of input nodes that trigger this workflow. That can be a manual trigger or a scheduled trigger, or, for example, Gmail inbound message. And there are plenty other ways to trigger it. Whatever you can think of is probably already there. So every time the thought comes to mind that, oh, I would like to get data from here and I would like to react, say, to a new lead that is coming in somewhere, it's definitely possible to implement with the use of N8N. It's just a question of, it's in the form of this nodes, and each node is doing some data processing. So let's start with the chat trigger node. This is their standard provided node specifically for AI agents to test them internally right from within the N8N workflow. Note that every workflow needs to have at least one starting node. In this case, this is the message received node, but it can have a lot more of them. For example, I can add over here a manual trigger node if I want to trigger an agent manually later. And then what you do is you basically connect various other nodes, logical nodes, and the data will be flowing through them from left to right. So whenever a request comes in, or whatever I manually trigger, this manual trigger, a certain data will be flowing from left to right through the entire chain of the nodes and processing this data, and at the exit of that workflow, at the exit of this agent, the data will be returned to the caller or saved somewhere, or something is going to be done to this data. But let's get to the point of having a super simple AI agent in place. It's actually as simple as adding this AI agent node, and it opens up the configuration of this node right away. But let me go back to the main visual designer over here. So as you can see, this chat node is now directly connected to this AI agent node. And unlike most other nodes within N8N, this one is bigger. It's not a square, it's a rectangle, and it has several points of connection. Let me explain those. So this chat model section is allowing to connect the actual large language model that is going to be used by this AI agent. And in N8N, by default, they have dozens and dozens of various pre-created nodes. And I think every large language model that you can think of is covered in default nodes that they have. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to be using what I already have configured, which is going to be Gemini. So we just basically click Add and we search for the Gemini chat model. And when you do that for the first time, you will be asked to configure the credentials to connect with that. And I can click Edit to, I can create new ones as well, but I can also click Edit to show you what it looks like. And in the case of the Gemini API key, you would need to get this API key from the Gemini service. However, if you are connecting any other large language model, so let's do an example and connect OpenAI chat model. It is also configured over here in the credentials. And when you configure OpenAI, usually you just need to enter one API key that is provided by OpenAI. The same goes for Anthropic, the same goes for other language models that are hosted somewhere. You can also use other options like OpenRouter, which basically allows to track in one place and call from one place all the different LLMs. but it's up to you to choose. For simplicity purposes, again, I'm gonna choose Google Gemini over here, and yeah, and we're gonna go with that. Oops. All right, and as you can see over here, I also need to select the model that is going to be used. Every provider has a whole bunch of these models, and they can be faster, they can be slower, they can be smarter, or they can be dumber. So it's up to you to decide which one you want to be using, actually. So again, for simplicity and speed purposes, we're going to be using a Flash family of models which are faster. So I'm going to select this Gemini 2.5 Flash Preview. And that's all. We don't need to configure anything in this particular area anymore. Memory and tools we will be using later when we're going to be configuring toolset and memory for this agent. But right now, all we want is a simple implementation of the agent, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so actually we are done in order to just show you the basic functionality. Before I do that, let me save this workflow. So I'm gonna click Save, and I also want to rename it. So I go and click on the name over here and call it Agents Course AI Agent. That's simple, clear name, right? So see, 2 seconds, we haven't done much over here. We only connected large language models, and we can now click Open Chat. And over here, we will be able to write a few messages and see how that reacts. So as I'm saying, hey, we see some processing going on, and we see the output of this agent, which says, hey there, how can I help you today? Do you see previous messages? I want to show you something just right away while we're here. You see what's happening? Despite the fact that we just talked to this agent, right now it responds not, no, it doesn't see previous messages. So every new message I send it, despite the fact that I send it within this chat, is a completely new universe for it. And that's why this agent needs memory. We will add this memory as one of the next. For that, let me dive into making this agent a little bit more intelligent. So let's open the configuration of the agent itself and see what's happening there. First of all, whenever you open the editing mode over here, it shows you that here is the data that came into this node, the last data that came into this node. And the last, as you can see, message was, do you see previous message? And the output was what LLM has responded. Now, in this case, as you can see, it automatically sort of hard codes the prompt from this field. But we can also, and that's the trick about N8N, every node allows to configure itself and to operate with different fields and combine them between each other. And we will use that going forward to implement actually useful agents over here. For example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use exactly the same field from the input data, but I'm going to define it manually below. The result is going to be the same. So as you can see, I just drag and drop this field into the prompt area, and you see it's in this curly brackets, and basically everything that is configured within this curly brackets is an expression, and you need to select expression over here next to any field that is configurable. What is going to happen is that when the workflow is executed, N8N node will select the value from the previous data using this expression. So I could have just wrote here some static text, hey, is this you? And that would work. It would receive, but it would always be receiving this exact text. And if you insert this dynamic expression of JSON chat input in this double brackets, it means that it will be referring to whatever is the data field value in the data that is coming in. Now, you probably are familiar a little bit with how AI agents work in general, but one of the things that they have in order to be different between each other is a system prompt. And as you can see, there is no system prompt right now, so it's simply empty. We can add it by clicking system message over here, And you can see that all it says right now is like, you are a helpful assistant, but we actually want it to be not just a helpful assistant, but my own personal helpful assistant, and do things that I prefer it. But let me stop over here and go back to our presentation for a minute or two. The reason I want to go back here is to take a step back and talk about agents themselves. What are they and how they're different from the rest of the stuff. I'm pretty sure you know that already, but I want to reiterate. So we, of course, have all of these various chat GPTs and other chat tools that are very helpful that we can talk to, and they can do certain stuff. In the beginning, they were only assistants, and they couldn't do much. They could only maybe search the internet at some point. But as we grow, those systems start to get more and more capabilities, so they can do stuff. Like they can generate images, for example, or some of them can check your emails, or some others can do this or that. And that's one of the differences between the basic AI assistants and AI agents. Really, the agents are the AI-based entities that can somehow perceive the world, whether it is from the user input or from some other input, from some data, make certain intellectual decisions and act on those decisions. And what we are building is also going to be able to do exactly that. It will perceive the world in a form of, your messages, and maybe even some external world that we give it access to, and then make certain decisions. For example, which tools to call and act on them. So basically execute those actions. And the main components that we're going to be looking at, again, during this course is the actual ways for the agent to perceive the information through the messages, operate with that using the memory, make decisions, call the tools in order to execute those decisions. This is what we're going to be working in the tools section, and return the output to the user. Let's move to the prompting. Let's move to the basic prompting and how we want to design this particular assistant and this particular agent. And as you know, the way agent behaves is fully dependent on how we tell it to behave, what we put in the system prompt and what we put in the user prompt. And there's a huge variation, obviously, of how that can be done, but I will show you one little trick of how to do that in the right way. So let's go to one of the large language models, in this case Gemini, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell it what I'm actually working on. I'm working on N8N agent, and will be my personal assistant. He will live in my Telegram and will be connected to the internet. We'll connect it later to my calendar and my email. I want it to help me with my personal and business tasks. What I need you to do is to create a system prompt for this agent using prompting best practices. Now look, what I'm doing here is I'm using the intelligence of Gemini itself to create the intelligence definition for this agent. I could, if I want to make it even more sophisticated, I would launch a deep research on the best practices for prompting for this particular type of the agents, and then use the insights from this deep research to generate the structure and tactics for this system prompt. But I'm just trying to keep it simple at this point, and what I do is just say, listen, this is what I'm building, and use best practices to generate me a system prompt for this agent. So let's go and see what it gives me. By the way, for this kind of tasks, for this type of tasks, I prefer Gemini. And as you know, you probably noticed that ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic, and other models, they are really difficult. They're really different in the way they think and work, and some could be better for some things and others could be better for other things. So for this particular task, I prefer Gemini because it gives me more kind of robust result. I think it's a little better at the kind of metacognition and intelligence design. Okay, so I want you to see what's happening. It has created this system prompt with split into good sections. It will give contextual information about the location, about the tool usage, even though it doesn't know anything about the tools yet. And we will change that. That's a problem. Well, it broke its own markdown over here. It provides a lot of examples, but I think it's too much. It's too much for the beginning. What I do over here, that's another trick of working with LLMs when designing those agents. Usually people follow up with comments and questions. What it appears to be from experience and from some research is that it's better if you come back to the original message and change it to meet the results, to make sure that the LLM spits out the work that you prefer. So in this particular case, what I would like to improve is to say, do not describe tools. They will be described later. Then I would like it keep examples to minimum. I would also like it to set the tone of voice. Set a clear tone of voice that is professional yet fun, because why not? And something else I wanted to correct here. Okay, username, user location, that's okay. Okay, it included agent name over here, so maybe we could specify the name, and yeah, let's call this agent Nexus, because why not, again. And keep it simple. All right. Let's see what it comes back with. Takes some time to think, which is good, because it does run the slow thinking process over here, which means that it's actually seriously considering what I asked it to do. So that's great. Okay, they gave me pretty simple system prompt with the core operating principles such as proactivity, clarity, assumption of the capability, okay, and efficiency. That's interesting. It actually is, if you remember, the previous prompt it chose was very detailed and built on layers and layers of different criteria in different sort of sections. And in this case, it decided to keep it simpler because I asked it to. So no big surprise here. But anyway, let's go back to the agent and put this prompt in. And good. I think we're actually ready to give it a try once more. How are you? Let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so of course it says, I don't know how I am. What's your name? Let's see if the system prompt actually came through. Yes, it did come through. So it is responding to us. The next thing we can do over here is to edit some memory. And again, we're going to start with a very basic memory that is included in the profile. But I want you to understand and know that there are many different kinds of memory that can be used for the agent. And if we scroll down a little bit to the memory section of the presentation, That's prompt architecture. If we look at the memory architecture, so there are many different databases and many different ways to implement memory, and that completely depends on the purpose and the needs of your agent. A few things I want you to know about specifically is the number one thing is the memory that is required for remembering the conversation. And that's the most basic, because like if you give an agent, a new message, it only receives one message over here. And in order for that to be intelligent about the previous conversation, it needs to save this conversation somewhere. And that's what we're going to do in this agent, that it can be done with basic functionality of N8N. But if you need something serious, like if you need an implementation of the same chat memory, but with the use of a more robust tooling, my recommendation would be to take a look at the service called Supabase, because basically this is a very simple interface into the Postgres database, which is a regular SQL database that you can easily configure over here, start and configure over here, and connect from within your agent system by just adding this Postgres modules right as nodes. We're not going to do that as well again. There is also a variation of the memory when basically agent has access to individual files and can pull them if needed as a context. That part we will do as an example over here, but not going to rely on it too much. And then there's, of course, RAG memory, a vector-based memory, which is basically a vector store, vector database like Pinecone, that allows to find documents that are most relevant to the requested topic, to whatever user is searching or whatever agent wants to find. And again, just to highlight, there's a huge variation of the databases you can use for the vector storage. And there is a combination of the sort of graph memory and vector storage and relational memory in various memory systems that you can find across the internet. Zep, I think, is one of them. Yes, the Zep AI is a very interesting example of building an incredibly personalized agent. This is out of the scope of this course, but I want you to be aware that memory is one of the biggest things that agents rely upon, and they definitely need to have a good one. And there are many, many options to integrate this memory into the agents. And even this Zep provider is available out of the box over here in N8N modules. Back to our Nexus. Let's call him Nexus over here. That's going to be cool. Okay. So let's go back to Nexus. Nexus is right now doesn't have any memory and we need to add it. So we just click here, and the first thing that pops up, as you can see, is this simple memory storage that doesn't require any credentials or really anything to work. And it's near other options that exist here. So as you can see, it's super straightforward. What it needs from you is the session ID, which in this case is undefined. And it needs to verify Windows length. And by window length over here, it means specifically number of messages from the history that need to be included with every request to the large language model. And it's an interesting decision to make, because basically you don't want to lose the context, but at the same time, you don't want AI agent to be overloaded with too many messages. I think if you set something like 15, it's going to be enough and not too much. Let's save. So let's continue with this agent. And interesting thing is that we are at the point when we need session ID to be put into the memory. And what session ID is something that allows agent to understand memory, to understand what user from what chat is talking to it, so that it can pull chat history from the memory, which happens automatically on the backend, but it does need some session ID to associate it with. And it's a good reason for us to drop this original chat node as well as the manual trigger node and connect this agent to a real-life messenger, to Telegram in this case. So let's do exactly that. So how do you connect it to Telegram? First of all, I would like to open Telegram itself. And in Telegram, you can find this bot father bot. Again, it's a bot that creates bots. And this is where you can go ahead and create your new bot just by running this command. And I can name this bot. Okay. It wants me to name it somehow, and it will, whatever. I will copy this one. Just need some unique value. Okay, and it creates me the bot and gives me this API key. This API key is how you would authenticate with your agent in N8N, with your N8N instance. But we already have it prepared over here. And we already have this Nexus bot. Let me clear the chat history over here so it didn't bother us. And we'll start from scratch. I already created it and configured the credentials. When I go ahead over here and add a Telegram node, I want the Telegram node for a new message. So I'm selecting this on message trigger. And so what happens is that, first of all, it will ask for the credentials to connect with. You can add new ones. You can click create new credential. And this is exactly where you would put this access token, this API that Telegram bot finder provided. There's nothing that stops us from actually doing that for demonstration purposes. We're just saving it. Cool. It was saved. I'm going to rename it as agent course TG agent. Okay, so we have saved that, and it will trigger on every message that is received. And we connect this node, we just move it, and we connect this node to the AI agent so that basically it directly connected to the agentic functionality and new message came in. Now, that still doesn't give us the session ID. We don't know what data will come in yet, but I think it's a good experiment to set up to check how that's going to work. So I'm saving that. I'm going back here and I'm opening the actual bot, which is here. So this is our test bot. And yeah, I don't like it. I want to rename it. Let's create a new bot and give it a proper name. Nexus agent bot. I'm gonna do the same Nexus agent bot. And we're gonna edit the API key and open this bot over here. So I'm gonna go back and edit the API key, click edit, and just put the new API key over here, save it. Good. So now we should be connected, our bot should be connected to N8N. So I click test workflow. And as you can see, it's waiting for the trigger event. So it's waiting for the message to come in. So let's go back to Telegram and click start. And it sends this start message, which means message comes in. We can now double click on the node and take a look at the actual data that came in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to go to executions, which is where it's going to host all the executions and what's happening. And basically it saves one data flow, one data point that came in and run through the workflow, whether it finished with an error or it finished with something successful. It saves this information over here and you can review it. You can see the errors and what's happening here. Another piece of, quite a convenient piece of functionality here is you can copy this to editor. And now when you open components to edit, you will see the data that run through in this specific response. So the error that we see, first of all, is you can see that this message is red. It means that it wasn't resolved at the execution time because it couldn't find this chat input as we deleted the previous component. That's very clear why this is happening, because we deleted the node and haven't replaced it with something new. And now we will do that. So I will just drop it over here, just delete it and go to the text field that we receive in the data. As you can see, Telegram trigger is the node that received it. And underneath here, we see all the data that came in. And among this data, we see text field. So I just drop text over here. And you see it is resolved to JSON message text. We can also address node by name instead of this direct JSON message texts, because when you address data by just $JSON, it only looks at the data from the most recent node. And you can address the data from the nodes before. And the way to do that is to just have brackets over here, then basically input the node name in these brackets, and then say item and then JSON. And so what happens in this case, as you can see, the rest stayed the same. So it's JSON message text. But instead of talking to default last node data, I'm talking to this specific node data, node output data. And we will see how that will become quite useful. Okay, so we saved it over here. And the second error that we see is that there is no session ID. Simple as that. So session ID, what can we use for session ID? If we open the data that comes in, there is a thing called chat ID. Here it is. And this chat ID uniquely identifies the chat from which this message came in. And so we would need something like that, a unique ID, unique to a chat, to save messages related to this chat. So let's do that. And for that, I will actually use another node, which is called set node. It allows you to set any variables you'd like into the data stream of the workflow. So I'm gonna search for the set node, and I'm gonna put manually the session ID, I think this is how it's spelled, and put the value of this chat ID. This time I'm just gonna drag and drop it. I'm gonna also rename it. You can rename any node by clicking over here on the top and set session ID. I'm gonna validate that the name of the node is the same. Yep, it is session ID. And as you can see, it is addressing JSON specifically. And I can define it below and pull from any other direction, but really it's just to show you how that works. So we need to have an element right before the agent, so it can address it directly by JSON session ID. Now, as you can see, since we added another node in the middle after the Telegram trigger node, we need to reference this prompt from by name of the initial node that produced this prompt, which we have already done, and it should be working just fine. So now let's give it another try. Let's click test workflow. And when we click it again, it basically, when you see that the data is pinned, so basically this little pin is displayed over here. You can also click on it and click this pencil to edit this input data. What it does is it just resends the data again through the pipeline. It's very easy when you're doing some testing and debugging of the workflow. Instead of sending the message every time, it would just send the same data again and again, and it makes it very easy to test. But in this case, I want to show you something different. We never activated this workflow. When we activate the workflow, that means that this triggers on the entry part of the workflow will be activated and will be actively waiting for the messages. You will not need to test workflow, click test workflow, or do anything else. It will just be open for business. So let's turn it on, make it active. And now it should be listening to exactly what I sent it. So let's see. I'm sending it hey, and I can go to executions and see if anything came through. And actually, Yeah, here's my message, hey. It was sent over here. So what happened is that we successfully called the LLM. LLM returned the response and said, hello, Nexus at your service. But the problem is that we never got this response. And the reason we never got this response is exactly because there's no response node over here. So the system basically doesn't send anything back. So let's fix that. I'm adding Telegram again. And this time I'm selecting node to send message, send a text message. And in the configuration of this node, as you can see, there are a few fields. So first of all, there's a chat ID, and there's an actual text that needs to be sent. So the chat ID, we're just taking simply from the initial chat ID to make sure to send it to the same exact chat. And we're also taking text, but the text we're taking directly from the agent output. So basically, this is the one. All right, so now we have the Telegram response node. And let's see if that works. I'm not going to test it here. I'm just going to go to Telegram and say, how are you? You see my different bot responded. And the reason my different bot responded, which is a good point, is the fact that we didn't choose the credentials correctly. So you remember we created credentials for this agent course Telegram agent. And this is the one I select now in this settings. Otherwise, by the way, be careful with the selection, because if you don't select it correctly, that means that it will be sending data to the wrong place. So now it should respond to us. Yay! It did respond to us. It says, hello again, always good to hear from you. And one more thing over here, you will be running into that all the time. There's this string. This is a message was sent automatically with N8N. This is an attribution that N8N adds by default in many nodes. And in order to remove that, you need to go to the Telegram node that sends the message, or to another node that sends the message. And over here, there's a setting, append N8N attribution, which you need to turn off. And that will switch off this thing entirely. So now let's save this change and go back here and ask a few questions. Do you see a history of the previous messages? And there we go. It says, yes, I do. I maintain complete history of the previous messages. That means that our memory works as expected. And we can confirm that by going to executions and validating it over here. Congrats to everyone. We just got ourselves a workable bot that can respond to us and respond to us in a way that we would like, and actually not be part of ChatGPT, but instead call whatever model we prefer in order to complete our task. That's something to celebrate. And now in the next section, I would like us to do the following. I would like us to make this chatbot actually useful by connecting it to some external services, to connecting it to the internet and calendar and Gmail, and seeing how that is going to work out. Okay, let's go on. So the next thing I would like to do here is to actually connect our Gmail account and Google Calendar account. And in order to do that, I need to use the tool functionality for the AI agent. The only challenge, and this is important for you to understand as well. So as you remember, I'm running this self-hosted instance. And when you add system credentials on the self-hosted instance, you need to provide more API information that allows to connect there, that basically authorizes this internal host to have access to those resources. You don't have these problems when you're using N8N hosted N8N cloud account. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just copy this workflow into the different account on the cloud, because it's just going to be easier to configure those credentials yourself. And that will give you enough of an example to do that. I created a brand new workflow with the same name over here, and I just literally copy and paste this whole workflow into this new space. So what I need to do now is I need to make sure that my credentials are configured correctly. So what I'm gonna do is I already configured the same Telegram account access. So I'm gonna select it over here and I'm gonna select it over here. Well, it's already selected because it's the only one. So we just need to save it. And the only other thing that is lacking over here is credentials to our Gemini. And to make it simple, I will just replace this Gemini with OpenAI, just because it's easier to configure the connection over there. So we create new credentials and we need to put the API key there. Let me find that in just 1 second. There you go. We have the API key. It's quite easy to get the API key once you register as a developer on OpenAI. So should be quite straightforward. Now, the model GPT-4o Mini is perfectly fine. It's fast and it's as much intelligence as we actually need right now. And you can see how easy it is to change the actual large language models here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the old one and I'm going to turn on the new one. And let's give it a try. Since this is a new instance, it will not have memory of this chat, but I hope it will work as expected. Yes, it's working as expected. So let's check. What's your name? Okay, he's Nexus. Nice, fun. The next thing we want to do here is to connect our systems, our Gmail and our calendar. And to do that, we're going to use tools. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's start with the Google Calendar. So we just search for the Google Calendar tool and drop it over here. And as you can see, again, the first thing it will ask you to do is to configure the credentials. So we need to create new credential, and over here it's asking us to log in with OAuth, which is a standard way to do that. And it seems like my pop-up is blocked by Safari. So now it opens up and I'm connecting it to my personal Gmail account. It will request view and edit events. I approve of that. And as easy as that, it is connected. As you can see, it says green account connected, which means that it actually verified the connection. Now, what we can figure also in the tool is the following. So the tool works in a way that maybe we should make a step back over here. Every tool works in the way that AI agent looks at the description of the tool and the description of the different tool fields and makes a decision whether it wants to call this tool or not. And it will become clear exactly how it works a little later when we actually make a call. But what is essential to know here is that AI should have a clear understanding of what this tool can do and how it can make changes into this tool, how it can call this tool with various parameters. So over here, this tool description is exactly what it's doing. So you can set this tool description manually, but for standard tools like Google Calendar, it is recommended to keep it set automatically. And then we look at the configuration of the actual Google Calendar tool. The resource is could be calendar, could be event, and operation can be create, delete, get many, update, etc. So let's see what we have in the calendar. It can help us find availability. All right, that sounds good. And then it needs us to select a calendar. So I'm going to select my personal calendar over here, and I'm going to change the name of this tool to find availability. Okay. Now we can see that there's two more fields, start time and end time. This is basically the time frame within which it's going to be searching for this availability. And since it can be very much and should be very much context dependent, we should click this little magic button. And if this is clicked, then it means that this value is going to be defined by AI based on the context of the conversation that is happening right now. So that should be enough. Let's save it. Now, after we saved it, the agent should know that it has access to this particular tool. So let's check it. What tools do you have? Okay, it has access to the check calendar availability tool. Can you check my availability for tomorrow, please? And let's see if that actually works. Okay, you're fully available tomorrow, no schedule, no planned activities. Good for me. Good for me that all of my events are in my work calendar. I will go ahead and block out half of the day on my calendar just to provide an example. Okay, it really is open. I'm gonna block it like that. And it is supposed to, if the time zone is set correctly, it is supposed to let me know my availability is this particular context. So let's give it a try. Check again, please. Okay, it thinks that I'm fully available tomorrow. So let's take a look at why it thinks so. I'm gonna go to the executions. And in the executions, we're gonna see all these requests going through. And I can validate that actually, here's my request to check that again. It came through successfully. And AI agent actually called the tool. We can see this check mark over here. It means that the tool to the call has actually happened. And I see the problem. The problem that is it thinks that it's 2023. And this is another thing that you need to remember when creating agents, that unless you tell the agent in the prompt what date and time it is, it will not know it and will assume that this is the date of its last update. So what we're gonna do then is we're gonna go back to our Gemini chat, and what I'm gonna tell it is give me an expression for the current date and time that I can use as part of the prompt to inform agent about when it is. As you can see, if you provide enough details to an LLM, to a Gemini, it can be very helpful for you in designing and implementing those AI agents. So it's almost like agents creating agents. Okay, it's not what I expected. JS expression, JavaScript expression in these brackets. So as you remember, these JavaScript expressions within the configuration fields, they are resolved during execution. And so on every execution, after I insert this expression, it will go ahead and insert the current date and current time. There you go. Okay. I don't really care, but let's take this one. That should work perfectly fine. And so what we're gonna say is that current date and time are, as you can see, I'm adding that directly to the user prompt. So I can also add it to the system prompt, and actually maybe it's better if it's part of the system prompt. I'm gonna put it over here, but it doesn't really matter in this case. Okay, I saved it, so now it should know again. What date is it today? Okay, it thinks it's January 24, 2024. I wonder why. As you can see, as always, I'm coming back to this. I see, it didn't resolve the date at all. And that's because it doesn't think that this is an expression. I need to switch it to an expression mode and not the text mode. And then in this case, it will know that. What date is it today? Yeah, don't forget to make this switch. I run into that every time, as you can see. All right, there we go. Today is June 12, 2025. Wonderful. Can you check my availability for tomorrow? As you can see, we're already sort of entering. Oh, now it's saying that I'm not available tomorrow. Okay. Well, that's almost true, but not entirely. Let's see what happened in the execution. So the date, and by the way, every time you need to look in more details at the value of the resolved strings, there's this little button you can click. And when you click it, it opens up this three-sided panel with the source data, expression, and the result is correctly resolved to the right time. Wonderful. Now it did call the tool with the right parameters, but apparently the tool didn't return the right value, so it returned false basically. And yeah, that's interesting. That seems to be the problem with the tool itself, because it doesn't return the right value. But let's give it a try and select a time zone, GMT. Let's just use GMT, and because if this one also returns that there's no availability, then it's a problem with the tool that for some reason is not returning the correct data. Instead of doing that, let's actually make it return us at least something out of this calendar. And we're gonna check event as a resource, and we're gonna ask it to get many. And we're gonna ask it to get many from this personal calendar. And we're gonna set a limit to 50, just to not overload it. I would even say to 20. And again, we're gonna have AI set up these values on its own. I also want to rename this tool to get events. And let's give it a try. What events do I have tomorrow? As you can see, it's very quick to iterate with this thing. So you can make these changes and see the results very easily. And this time it correctly returned me the events that I have tomorrow, which is like two blocked out events, one for the sport and one for just an example to block it out from the personal calendar. Okay. That's great. We already have a progress, and now I wanted to be able to create an event in my calendar. So let's actually just duplicate, for the purpose of this demonstration, duplicate this node and connect this tool and go back to this node and say create event. Now we're going to do the same. The resource is event, the operation is create, the calendar is the same. The start and the end are fully configurable, and use default reminders. I'm also going to leave it to AI. And by the way, when you let AI select the start and end, you can also add a custom description, but I would always try to do without description first and see if that works, because in many cases it just works. Can you please create another event tomorrow, call it celebration, and make it at noon. Let's try this one. Wonderful. It says it created it, and I want to go and check that it actually happened. It did create it, but I think if that's the one, it created was the incorrect title and the incorrect time zone. So that needs to be fixed. Okay. It might be the time zone setting, which I didn't set correctly in this new node. Together with fixing time zone, we also need to add a couple more fields over here, such as the location field. And again, I'm clicking this button to allow it to select location on its own, allow the agent to select it on its own. Summary field. And let's see what else. Conference, color, name, or ID. We don't need them. Guests, description, ID, repeat frequency, I think could be set. But since there's no easy way to set to let AI set it, we're gonna skip it. Okay, that's good. And let's be a little more specific. Create this event again with proper description and in GMT time zone. Okay. Let's go back here. So the description is fixed. The time zone is not fixed. So let's see what's happening. Okay, one other way to fix the time zone, I just checked my time zone on the calendar is actually different, it's GMT +1. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this comment right in the system prompt. That current time zone is GMT +1. Okay, let's save it and try again, please. All right, it seems to have created. Let's click View Event and open it up over here. And it actually did create it, but it's not created, hasn't created it in the correct time zone again. Okay, I think I know what's the problem. Actually, the problem with the time zone is that agent actually is doing the right thing. So he's creating the event 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. GMT, while the calendar is in the GMT +1 time zone. Actually, it is correct. Now I want you to create an event in the same time, but for GMT +1 time zone. And so we're gonna see what's happening, and we see that the event is created at the correct time. So it's just a question of how to correctly align the time zone of the actual calendar and the time zone of an agent, the way it calls that. So now we have our calendar connected, and now we have this guy who can have access to our events and can create new events. But in order to make it useful, it would make sense to actually connect it to our email as well and see what it can pick up from there. Okay, so let's continue and connect our email here. So first of all, I would like to offer you a way to organize your agent. Tools that are talking to the same system should probably be organized vertically, and that's most easiest to then view and manage. And you will be adding a lot of those tools, so as you add them, they will appear as new rows under the agent. So now let's go ahead and add another Gmail tool. As you can see, we have no credentials set up over here right now. And I specifically created an email box for this agent test. It's AI test at Ability AI, and this is a freshly set up Gmail account that we will connect to. There you go. I'm selecting and allowing all the access that is necessary, and we are connected. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a tool to check the messages. So basically get many search messages, which it has a limit over here. I would set a limit to say 10 to not overload it too much. Simplify this label means that simplified version of the return or not will be returned from Gmail. Simplified doesn't include attachments, I think, but in this case, let's just simplify it and see if we can add filters over here. And yes, we can. We can add search, and I of course let AI select the value for the search string. And what else we have that is useful? Label name, include spam, read status, sender, received after. Let's add received after and received before to give AI more flexibility on how to control it. And read status as well. Okay, wonderful. So search emails. All right, let's see if that is gonna work. We saved it. Now we can come back to Telegram. Do you have access to Gmail tool? Okay, wonderful. Can you search all unread emails in my mailbox? Well, I hope it's gonna work. It's usually going to take some time to execute tools, and that's nothing to do with AI, but it's more to do with the actual tool or API. And as you can see, I will show you how to handle that going forward. But so far, you can see that actually we got the response back. We see 4 messages, and if we go here, that's exactly what we have. We have 4 unread messages and 1 read message, so it followed instructions precisely. And now we should be able to, if you want to read the message and analyze that. And for that, we need to create a different tool. So I click plus again, and we add Gmail tool. Again, same Gmail account and resource message and operation get and message ID that AI will use on its own. And I will turn off simplification over here because I want attachments. I want this thing to be able to process the attachments. So get 1 email. Now we have this different tools. Now we have 2 tools to search email and to get one of the emails, and that's wonderful. And now I want this thing to be able to search, find, and analyze the emails. So what I should be able to do now is to ask it to summarize one of these emails. Let's say the tips one. Can you summarize email? So what happens on the backend right now? It understands what email I mean. It can see from the history. It pulls this email using the email ID and returns me the over. We're getting into the territory of actually making this agent work the way you like. And to do that, to achieve that, you need to play with the system prompt and make it summarize things to you in a particular way or analyze them in a particular way. And if you want to dive into that, we're not going to go too deep here. You would need to go to the actual system prompt used over here by the agent and edit it. Usually I do that with the help of AI itself in order to make it more useful from your specific perspective, how you want this agent to work. There could be some workflows that are defined. For example, I often use, in my own agents, I often use this workflow for giving me a daily report in the morning. So it basically sends me a summary of the upcoming calendar events and emails that I need to pay attention to. And that's one of the useful workflows. You can add any number of those useful workflows depending on your specific habits and needs. And just as an example, I can show you how we do that. So I just copy this system prompt and I go back to Gemini. It already knows my system prompt. I can create a new chat, but I can also say, this is the current system prompt. Now I add a separation and do my ask. I want this agent to be able to return me a structured report on my day going forward. Agent has access to calendar and email search using appropriate tools described separately. Update the system prompt. So I'm waiting for this thing to update my system prompt, and every time that I'm going to be asking for a daily report, it will be returning me this report in the format and within the focus that I need. Like I can ask it to focus more on my business related emails or on particular topics and notes from the incoming emails to get me this information. Okay, let's see what it has. Updated next your personal profession to core. Your signature tasks, the daily briefing. Well, it's not a signature task, but it's one of the tasks. But okay, you see, it described a very specific way to return this information. I'm fine with that, so I'm coming back here and inserting this system prompt message. I'm also going to close the Alt tab here just to not bother with that. Wonderful. We can save it now and ask it to give me a daily report. So that is already quite complicated task that has multiple steps, and what we can see in the executions, which will appear in a second, that well, it's already done. I was hoping to show you that actually it's going to take some time to execute, and in big inboxes and with a lot of tools it will, but so far it's pretty quick. So it shows me the upcoming events and it shows me the priority inbox and what I need to focus upon. And after a time, if I don't like the way it is presenting the data, I will want it to change somehow. I can always do that within the system prompt for this particular agent. I would also like to give this agent access to Perplexity. So you probably know that Perplexity is this wonderful AI-powered search engine that basically answers your free-form questions based on the most recent information. They're pretty good and strong in what they're doing. This is agent on its own per se. And we can use that over here to our advantage. That's another tool that we can add over here. And it's included by default in the nodes that are available on N8N. And here it is, Perplexity tool. As you can see, it's also same or similar to the other tools that we're using. It first of all needs to add credentials. And for Perplexity, the credentials is just the API key. And I'm going to use one of my API keys for Perplexity. Okay, so I inserted my API key over here. I save it. It validates the connection. Wonderful. And now we can come back here and configure this node, configure this tool further. Okay, message the model. The model now it basically wants us to select the model, and they have their own models that basically called the same way or similar way as large language models, with an exception that they're more focused on the internet research. And let's select Sonar Pro. I mean, that's more than enough, and we will allow the text to be configured by AI, and the role is user. And so there's just basically a very similar configuration to any other large language model. I'm going to simplify the output. Well, actually, Just gonna turn it on. There are many more configurations that we can add, but let's not do that, at least not yet. And save it. I'm gonna put it here nicely. And now let's check with the agent. Hey, do you have access to Perplexity? Can you search most recent trends in AI agents for business automation? So what's happening now is basically exactly what would happen if you go to Perplexity, but the agent is initiating the call and going to Perplexity API and talking to it to see what it can return. And as we can see, it's still running. So Perplexity is taking some time. Oh, there you go. And now it returns the full response summarized by an agent. As you can see, there's a lot of text and with various links to the most recent things, say this report by McKinsey. So this can also be used now as a research tool for anything you really want, and the research tool that is created how you want it to be created and behaves how you want it to be. Now, one thing that this agent cannot yet do is to actually send emails. So why don't we add this capability? We click rename it to send email. Okay. Operation send, and we're gonna allow this to fill up the subject, the message. And my recommendation would be to keep it text in the beginning, because HTML is gonna be more likely to fail. But basically now we have a way for an agent to send an email. So what I wanted to do now is to say, please send this report to my personal email address. And let's see what happens. And by the way, you can connect multiple groups of Gmail nodes that are connected to different credentials, to different email boxes, and you would be able to operate in between them. I'm not sure that this is a great idea because it's very easy to confuse, but just know that you have this capability. Now, again, see, there's a report, wonderful report of this AI agent trends that has been sent to my personal email. Let's validate it. I'm gonna go to this thing and take a look at the send messages. And there you go. The email with all the trends and the links had been sent by an agent into my personal Gmail account. Now, can you please find time to discuss this report tomorrow not discuss, let's say, think about this report tomorrow and block it on my calendar. I think it should be fine from 11 to 12 in the morning. So what I wanted to do, as you can see, I'm just giving you an example of a task that involves multiple calls to various tools. So it would need to call to get events from the calendar, and then it would need to create an event based on the report that it researched from the Perplexity and can access from various other tools. So it says it did, and it actually did, and created this report, created this event for me to take a look at the report and analyze it. Obviously, I'm sure you can think of 5,000 more different workflows and pipelines that you can ask this agent to do already. But that's not everything that we want to do with that. We will now extend this functionality. But I want to do something just for fun, just for you to understand that this agent can actually communicate with you not only from the one message to one message kind of mode, basically when you're asking something and it's responding, but it also can send messages and other things proactively into the chat before it sends the final response. So as you can tell from the executions over here, we launch this Telegram trigger node with a message that we send, and then the data enters by this pipeline and exits at the response node that sends a response from the AI agent. But we can also enable this AI agent to send you intermediary messages and other artifacts in the middle of the thinking that it does. And to enable that, we're going to add Telegram tools. And it's also very easy to add. We just add it as a tool. We connect it to the same Telegram account that we already have. And we can ask it to be able to, say, send a message. Again, we allow it to specify chat ID and text. Actually, chat ID, I think we should get from the variable rather than allow AI to specify it. So JSON session ID, that's going to be available to it. And text, of course, is the same. Send. And so what I would usually do in such circumstances, I would go back to the system prompt of an agent and give him a specific instruction to send me intermediary messages before executing tools, because tools are taking time to execute. Before executing tools, or let's say long-running tools, or requests that can take a lot of time to execute, you must send user intermediary message to let them know that you are about to do that. Wonderful. So we updated the system prompt and we're going to save it, and I'm going to ask it to do another research. It's supposed to recognize that it's a long task and will probably want to send me an intermediary message. Let's check if that works. Now run a research for the news in advanced microbiology. Use Perplexity. I don't have to say use Perplexity, but just to make sure that it goes through. Okay, let's see what happens on the execution side. It appears that it failed to comply with my request, and that's normal. So it assumed that Perplexity didn't take a lot of time. Let me validate that. Yes, so it didn't send the message. So usually this can be resolved by better system prompting. And we can go back and just plain say that Perplexity tool always takes time. And by improving the actual model, because models that are newer, they're better in understanding those instructions. So over here, just again, for example, we can switch to GPT 4.1. I think 4.1 mini is gonna cut it. But yeah, let's give it a chance. Run research on, I don't know, microchips. Use. Remember that when you connect all these tools, you connect Perplexity, you connect your LLM that you work with, or even you connect some tool that allows you to generate images and videos, which I think we should do within this course. Every one of them will be charging you on per execution basis usually. So each one of these calls costs something, and just keep that in mind. But that's kind of norm of this new world. All right, this time it errors out. and it errors out. I see what's the problem. The response message is too long, and it couldn't send it because it's too long for Telegram. Usually it is handled by splitting the messages in two, but this is beyond the scope of this particular course. So we're gonna proceed just with some smaller content in the data. Okay, so just to come back to what we've been doing, I asked it to find the best events in Lisbon in July. And as you can see, before it started the search, it actually sent me a note as we instructed it. Well, to be aware that, hey, listen, this is going to take some time, and it's expecting me to say yes. Although, again, it didn't work the way I would have preferred, because it actually sent the message through the main message channel and then expected the next request and only then executed that. What I wanted it to do is to go to this send Telegram message tool and use that for warning me about the upcoming delay in the execution. I would like to still fix that, so let's go ahead and find a way to do that. So we edited the system prompt. I can only highlight the importance, say critical, before executing running tools. Using send message tool. I'm specifying the tool that it needs to use to achieve that, and saving that. Okay, so it did return me that. Now I'm gonna ask it again, please find me best events in London, limit to 5. And I send it to the agent. Oh, there you go. And now we correctly receive this message that I will research top 5 events, and it will take a moment, and then it sends the message right away after that. Note that actually this little attribution over here is the same thing as we already dealt with before. So we can go back to the send Telegram node and append N8N attribution and turn it off. Agent right now is connected to the internet. It is connected to our Gmail and our calendar events. And now let's continue and add an ability for this agent to manage tasks in the Google Tasks. And that would be, to do that, it's actually very straightforward, same way as we did with emails and events. We just add a tool called Google Tasks tool. We select, we create new credentials, actually signing in for that. And we again select the same account over here. Given it access, now it's connected. And over here again, we can do create, delete, get many, etc. But let's focus on creating, and I will allow these AI agents to manage the title and the task list, and say also add a due date, would be quite useful, and add some notes. And yeah, I think that's enough. Create Google Task. Wonderful. So it still says it's not properly configured because I haven't selected the task list name or ID, which is basically just a Google list of tasks that it will have access to. So put it over here under the calendar. And there we go. It is ready. And now I'm going to add a task over here. Please complete next week on Monday to review and analyze this report. Let's see what happens. So first of all, Okay, today is June 13, 14, 15, 16, 16. Let's try to specify it exactly, although to be fair, I would have expected it to understand me right away. I'm not sure why it didn't, but it did add the task, and we can click and take a look at this task. Actually, I'm just gonna copy this link and go back to the browser to see it. It's the wrong account over here. And there you go. Here's the task that it's scheduled for me. In exactly the same way, I can add tools to get tasks from the list and manage them and delete them and edit them, etc. And it's as simple as that. But for the purposes of this example, we're not going to go there just because we have plenty of other things that we need to talk about. Okay, let's go on. One more thing I want to show you is the fact that it might seem that you're a little bit limited to using these tools. Like, okay, you can throw all sorts of tools over here, but reality is that after about 20 tools, some agents can get confused and forget to use the tools, because with every add tool, they're basically adding a little bit of a prompt to that, explaining what the tool is and how to use that. So the context becomes more and more overloaded, which results in the fact that it's not performing quite well with large amounts of tools. That's why some of the tools are grouped into other agents. And this is a very good point at which I can show you that there is an easy way to create a separate agent and then call this agent from this individual agent as a tool. And it will work in exactly the same way and very similar way to the way these tools that are pre-built are working. So let's do exactly that. Okay, so let's do exactly that. We are back to the home screen, and over here we can create a completely new workflow that will be used by another workflow as a tool. And let's play with something interesting. Let's assume we want to create an AI agent functionality, an AI agent that helps us create LinkedIn posts, or for example, LinkedIn posts, why not? So what are we going to do? First of all, we need to start with the first step. The first step is going to be when executed by another workflow, because that's the idea. We expect that this is going to be called by the agent itself. So we're adding this component, and when executed by another workflow, we also need to add a configuration over here of the workflow input schema. That basically is like a function parameters of this workflow. And we really just need one field over here. Let's call it prompt or topic. It doesn't really matter, but point is this is the parameter that AI agent will pass over here to let this one understand what it needs to do. So we're back, and now let's add actual AI agent over here. And I also wanted to show you something that when you're adding AI agent, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to have a memory or has to have tools or has to do really anything except for a very specific thing that you ask it to process. And that, in this case, becomes a pretty deterministic piece of intelligence. So let's do exactly that. We added this AI agent. Now we need to add a chat model. We're going to use the same open AI as we already have it connected. And let's go with a little bit better model. Okay. Where is 4. Oh, there you go. 4.5 preview. Why not? It's pretty creative. Should be. And now we need to come up with a prompt to this AI agent. So we're going back here and saying, I want you to come up with a prompt for an agent that will generate a LinkedIn post based on a given prompt and context using best LinkedIn practices and best prompting practices. It should return exactly one post without any additional comments. All right, let's do it. And while it's doing that, a thought came to mind that probably over here we should not just allow to pass prompt, but probably allow to pass, say, tone of voice. And let's rename it from prompt to topic. And also context, which is like any additional context that can be necessary. The trick here is that I can put them all in one field prompt and just pass as a text, and this will not make the difference. And I'm just showing you that as an example of adding multiple fields and using them within the AI agent itself. Okay, let's go back and copy this prompt. Let's take a look. So craft powerful hook, provide clear value, encourage engagement, use relevant hashtags, critical output instructions, topic, context. Okay, we're not going to pick up these last few fields because we're going to put this one in the system prompt for the agent, system message. And over here in the user message, we are going to specify these specific fields that we have identified. And as we did, one of the other things I wanted to show you here is that you can configure in most of the input nodes, you can configure this test data that would be executed, allow you to easily test this workflow. So let me add the test data for this call, and it will be as if somebody is calling this workflow with these parameters. So basically what we're going to have is topic, tone of voice and context. Tone of voice and context. And let's write something like AI agents in marketing. And the tone of voice, let's put here professional and direct yet engaging. I don't know why, but let's see what it comes out. It can be at any level of details when we actually use this one. And for the context, no additional context provided. All right, so I'm giving it a lot of freedom. Obviously, this is just an example. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click execute. And now after I just save it. After I did that, I will have these three fields over here as sort of example of the test data. And what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do is put it to expression mode as we did before and say topic and insert this topic and then go with tone of voice and insert tone of voice. And I think after topic, I will insert context and insert this context. So whatever data is passed over here as this is going to be inserted, and this tool is going to use it in its execution. All right, wonderful. Let's give it a run. It right now executing LLM with the prompt and with the additional provided task, and outputs something. And we can take a look at the output over here. Okay, agent transforming marketing. Okay, I mean, it's probably a meaningful post, but it's not convenient to look at it over here. And also we can make it longer. I would say, oh, that's an interesting idea. Let's make it longer. In the context, I'm gonna add, just specify that let's make it relatively long. LinkedIn post, rely on most accurate information. And of course it wouldn't rely, and if I did this for real, I would be building, adding it additional tools to actually, check the news on the internet or get some other data sources. But also this can be done by the agent on the parent level and provided as a context. So really both ways work. So I think we're actually done with this one, and I want to rename it now and call it LinkedIn Post Agent. And I wanted to wait for it to actually execute and take a look at the result. See, there you go, the full result is here. Now we're coming back to the home page, and we can see that we have two agents. There is, however, a difference between these agents. The agent that we started with, which is the main one, Nexus. Actually, let's rename it to Nexus. Agent's course AI agent. Okay, I mean, it's a decent description. Now, so this agent, the difference is that this is a conversational agent. This one chats with you in Telegram or in whatever the messenger you are using, and its objective is to communicate with user. Whereas the new agent that we created over here, this is actually one run-through agent. It doesn't have any additional logic, any additional tools, any memory, nothing. It just receives a bunch of data and spits out the response. It's basically like your Gemini or ChatGPT. You just put in the data and you get the response. Cool. Now let's go back to the Nexus and add this new functionality as a tool. Nice. As always, it's going to ask us for the description of the tool, and we can say this is AI agent that specializes on generating professional LinkedIn posts. I would even remove professional. Maybe there's going to be non-professional or some fun LinkedIn posts later. Then what we need to do is we need to select this agent in this list of the workflows, and let's call it LinkedIn Post Agent over here. And what you see is that those three fields that we configured as an input field for this workflow are now asked to be filled up. And I'm going to let all of those fields to be filled up by AI agent, and I'm going to describe in details over here, well, in some details, what those actual fields mean. High-level topic definition can be 1-2 paragraphs long, explaining the main ideas for the post. And for the tone of voice, consistent definition of the tone of voice. We can go into a lot more details on how tone of voice can be defined, but consistent definition of the tone of voice for based on the user request. Again, good practice would be to not just describe the tool, but also update the system prompt for this agent with more detailed instructions on how to delegate this task to this sub-agent. Any additional context, such as news, thoughts, ideas, references. What else can it be? Anything useful for the post creation. Okay, that's good. Create LinkedIn post. Wonderful. So we just created this tool for the post. I will put it over here for convenience. One other thing I wanted to do, which I think would be relevant, is to take the date and time string and set it correctly in the agent that is going to be generating the post, because this will be actually useful and meaningful for this post and for this agent. All right, let's go back here. We save this and we go back to the original Nexus. And I think we're ready to try it. So now I'm going to say, you remember that we have a memory over here. So it remembers these messages previously, including top 5 events in London. And I'm just gonna do this. Create a LinkedIn post about top 5 events in London. Use casual tone of voice. There we go. So we're launching this process. Let's take a look what is happening. Okay, it's running. What it failed to do is to warn me that it's going to go and generate it, but it did go and it did generate it. So as we can see, it did make a call to this tool. However, and unlike what I would like it to do, actually we're going to do it now. I also wanted it to do some additional research. So the first post is generated and it's fun. And now let's generate another one based on some kind of research. Find most recent news about, say, OpenAI, and put them in a form of a LinkedIn post. Use the same tone of voice. Again, see, I'm referencing that, hey, I already told you what tone of voice to use, so go ahead and do that. Now the idea is that the agent will understand that it needs to, first of all, go to Perplexity and do some research on the OpenAI news, then condense this information into a LinkedIn post and use the tone of voice provided, and return it to me. Okay, that's perfect. Fresh models 4.1, 4.5. Major API enhancement. Well, I guess it's looking at news for the last few months, which is fair to say. I didn't say today's news. To make it a full LinkedIn post in this case, okay, we have moved quite a lot, and now we actually have a workable agent that is capable of having access to our Gmail and calendar and Google Tasks. It can also access Perplexity and do a lot of research and Google just web search for you. And it can also create LinkedIn posts with the help of this sub agent that is specialized on doing exactly that. Now, all of this can be much improved by just working on the system prompts and improving those. That would be a significant, massive advantage for you, and maybe adding additional tools that would serve you better or help you do certain things better. And really, we could say that, okay, yes, the AI agent is here and we're done with this course. But reality is that I want to show you several more concept that could be key to understanding how to build agents within the N8N environment. And the first thing I want to start with is scheduling. So what do I mean by scheduling? That's a standard concept in software engineering. It's basically your ability to trigger something at a given prescribed intervals and make sure that it executes, make sure that something is happening. And you can absolutely do that within the context of N8N. It's very simple. You just need to create a new workflow over here and add on webhook on a schedule trigger. And over here, you define what the schedule is going to be, and you can execute those workflows on the schedule as much as you like. For example, what we can do is say once a day, we can execute our own agentic workflow. So we're going to select this call, execute some workflow node where we can select our own, say, Nexus workflow. And what is going to be happening that in this case, every day at midnight, this will run, as long as it is activated, of course. This will run and execute the workflow that is configured. Problem is, though, that this workflow also needs to have the trigger node to be executed in this way. So we need to add another node over here. And this another node needs to be, we have add another trigger when executed by another workflow. And then we can create a whole bunch of parameters if we'd like, but in this case, we just don't need that. And every time it is executed, we can route it over here and have the entire agent to run on its own and do some thinking. And as long as it has memory, it can save the results of this work and then send it back to you. At the end of this course, I will show you an agent that can do that, but we're not gonna implement it right now. It's a little too complicated for this course. But what you should remember is that there is an easy way to do things on schedule. You just configure the schedule workflow, you turn it on. You turn it on and it runs. I'm gonna switch it off just to avoid these executions, but you will get this workflow in the package that goes along with this online course. Okay, so now you get it. I will drop this element from here just so it didn't bother us. And we will switch to the next topic. Next topic I would like to touch upon would be complex use cases that require some coding. So oftentimes you would run into, in complex workflows of course, but oftentimes you would run into situations when you might need a code node, which basically allows you to execute any custom logic for data processing, whatever it is. And that could be a code node for processing inbound data that is so custom that there's no way to deal with that otherwise, or you need to encode a string or something else, some parts of the HTTP request bodies into base64. There could be multiple different use cases. And whenever you cannot find a standard node within N8N, you can always use this code node. And all it does, as you can see, it just executes this JavaScript code that you configure. And what I usually do is whenever I have a situation like that, I go again to Gemini or some other AI and say, listen, here's the data that I have, and as an input, and I can get it from my executions somewhere. Here's the data I would get as an output from the agent. And I would say, okay, here's the data that I have, and I need to do this, and give me JavaScript code for the code block. And this Gemini, for example, will generate this code for you. You will just plug and play it over here, insert it, and use it. There's another way you can do is use this new Ask Assistant functionality in N8N Cloud itself. And as you can see, it's a very new thing. I think they introduced it just a couple of days ago. And what you can do is you can tell it, give me the code for the code node that would say encode an image in base64 format. I'm giving you just a purely theoretical example, but in practice it could be any kind of logic, so it depends completely on your use case. So this assistant does some thinking. Come on, man, Gemini is quicker. It looks through some documents apparently. Yeah, and there you go. It spits out the exact code that I would need to use. And all I want to do is to just copy that along with all the different characters, make sure that it's correctly formatted, insert it over here, and it will be ready to be executed once we have the correct data, and we will output that in some other format. So again, this is just an example. There are plenty of code node examples in the templates that you can use, but we're not going to do that in this scope. Just wanted you to know that it exists. What I also want you to know that exists is the fact that we can work with multimodal features of the AI agents, as well as the multimodal inputs and outputs. What it means is that you can not only send text, but you can also send images over here and even interpret those images. So in order for you to do that, you would need to make sure that you're processing the input data with the images correctly, and then describing those images with the use of, again, multimodal AI models. You can find a whole bunch of those templates on Ability AI Hub or N8N templates that do exactly that. And also what you can do is you can add an ability for the agent to send you images. And it's very simple to do through the tools. It's again a Telegram tool with an image, no, it's a message resource, but send photo. And agent will be able to send photos. So the use case can be that, okay, there is a way to generate an image over here for this agent, and then this generated image can be sent back to you using this single tool. Also, in terms of just the operations with different kind of files, the same exact thing goes for audio. Your audio can be uploaded over here through Telegram and then outputted through the tool as well. And I will show you that at the end with an example of the more developed AI agent that I use myself. Okay, so that's it with the multimodal inputs and outputs. I guess one of the last things I wanted to touch upon with you is the fact that you probably have heard of MCPs. So what is the MCP? Is the Model Context Protocol. It's basically a standard that has been developed by Anthropic, first of all, and then by open source community that allows to define the tool or a resource to be used by other agents and to clearly understand what this tool and resource do. You know, a good analogy is like it's a USB stick, USB format for AI agents that allows them to talk to each other and to exchange information in a standardized way. Now, there are thousands and thousands of different MCP servers and directories as well. Like this is one of them. This is Surface Labs marketing MCP directory. But there are honestly thousands more. And every last one of those MCP can be connected, but especially those that are deployed, because there are different ways that you can handle an MCP. And in order for you to connect an MCP to your agent, it's as simple as connecting it as a tool, this MCP client tool. And over here, you set up this SSE endpoint, which is basically the endpoint for the MCP server. And you would authenticate or not, and you would include certain tools from this MCP or all of the tools that they are providing. So it's an easy way to connect external APIs and external resources that other companies are providing and get access to them in a very quick fashion. So that's it with our agent example specifically. What I want to do now at the end is to show you an example of an agent that I have developed for myself, and it's my business assistant. It's basically, as you will see, it's a very similar structure to this one, but it has a lot more functionality, and it has memory, and it has scheduling, and it's also hosted in our internal instance over here. This is my business management agent. As you can see, it's a very large tree of various things. As you can see over here in the very beginning, what it does is it handles the photos and voice files that had been sent and just regular files, and then does some interpretation like transcribing the audio file and analyzing the image. And then after that, it does a couple of maintenance kind of things, and it then gets users' memory from Postgres. And by the way, that's another thing. It's another sort of industry standard. In a lot of these agentic use cases, you would need this memory. And I mentioned that at the beginning well, I prefer to use Postgres for this. And the easiest way to do that is on Supabase. And I think they should pay me for the promotion, but they didn't. Anyway, so a few more things happens over here. It gets the chat history and the user memory, which are different in this case. This agent also doesn't use the simple memory. And that's another note for you to remember. This simple memory that we have over here, It's not applicable for production applications. It should not be used in production. For production, you need to use something meaningful like the actual Postgres database. And then, as you can see, this agent has a lot of different tools, including calls to other workflows, including operations with memory and operations with files on the Google Drives, etc. It also has an ability to output voice message over here, and that's also exactly what it does. It's just calling the OpenAI node to generate the audio. It has scheduling, and when it is scheduled, it is triggered through this external trigger that I mentioned to you, that then launches the workflow and then pulls the user information from memory so that the agent knew exactly what user this was triggered for. Yeah, I think it triggers it for every user in the database in this particular scheduling use case. And it can also recover from errors. And by the way, that's another concept that you should be aware of. Every workflow has, if you go to the settings of the workflow, there is an error workflow reference. And this error workflow is, again, yet another separate workflow that handles how to process the situations when this agent fails for some reason. And when you have a lot of tools for an agent, it's likely that it's going to fail from time to time. So you need to give it an ability to recover from that, or at least to know about it. And so this external workflow that it calls if error happens, you can program it to do whatever you like. In my specific case, I'm calling this agent again with the same parameters in order to try to process this, recover from this error. So you can try to do something like that as well. All right, that's going to be it for this course. I truly hope I gave you enough of the context and information to understand how to build AI agents in an example of this Telegram-based AI agent, and how to make them more and more complicated and adjusted to your specific use cases, your specific pains that you need to resolve.